Hey everyone, behind me today is the Kia EV6 GT line, and this is the middle of the range version of these models. It starts with the Kia EV6 Air and then goes to the GT line rear wheel drive version, which is this version, and then it goes to the GT line all wheel drive version, and finally the top of the range, very fast, Kia EV6 GT. And I'm going to review this Kia EV6 GT line today. In this review, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the exterior of the car, then we're going to jump in the car and have a look at the interior of the car, and then finally what I'm going to do is talk about what the car's like to drive. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel by pressing the subscribe button below. Alright, let's take a closer look at this Kia EV6 GT line. Okay, having a look at the exterior of the Kia, and I do like it. We're looking at the front here, it looks sharp. There's some nice lines on the bonnet there. It's got these unique LED lights at the front, and it even looks like it's got a bit of a grille at the front. Obviously it doesn't need one, it's an electric car and it actually doesn't have one. It's just some plastic here, but you can see it kind of look a bit of a grille look there. The body kit's nice sharp edges, and as we take you around the side of the vehicle, we can get a good look at the side profile there. So looking at the side, it doesn't really, I don't think this car doesn't really know what it actually wants to be. It looks like a mix of a hatchback slash a coupe, but it's sort of a very unique shape that you don't see too many cars on the road as that sort of a shape there. The wheels on this, they're 20-inch wheels. I think they look good on this car. Even 21s wouldn't look too big on this car either. The rubber on this car is 255 wide and 45 profile. As we take you further around the side of the car, you can see there's a bit of a black lip that runs along the bottom there, give it a bit of a two-tone sort of color. There's got the black mirrors, and then you've also got these very sleek, smooth handles, which are sort of sleek in there. If you open the car up, they will sort of pop up, or if the proximity key, as you can see there, they're just popping up, and the proximity key will work as you come closer. They'll pop out for you. As we take a further look around the rear of the car here, and I really like the rear of the car. I think it's sort of very unique and attractive looking. A lot of people who've seen the car have said to me, oh wow, that looks like a fast car. It does look really sporty at the back. It's got these nice sort of sharp lights, and if you see these at night, that all lights up there, and from the distance you're wondering if you're coming behind some sort of spaceship or something like that. And then you've got this rear wing, which again helps with sportiness. You can even put your fingers right through there, so some aerodynamics there for you, so the wind runs down the windscreen well, and obviously no exhaust because this is an electric car. So as we hop into the interior of the Kia EV6 here, what you'll find is it's a very modern looking space here. You've got this big virtual cockpit, which is 12.3-inch system, which is then attached to the infotainment system, which is also over 12 inches, 12.3 inches. And they sort of integrate nicely together. When I reviewed the Kia Niro, which that review should be popping up now, if you're interested to look at that, there was sort of a break between the two systems, and you could see that there's just been two sort of plastic bits stuck together, and I found it looked a bit cheap and not very well integrated. The infotainment system's really good, nice clarity there, easy to use. You plug your phone in, it picks Apple CarPlay up straight away, no issues with that. Android Auto connects to as well. You've got your air conditioning ducts down there, and then your air conditioning controls, and they're pretty easy to use. It's pretty simplistic in here. Other than that, then there's not too many other buttons around. You've obviously got all your buttons for the ventilated and heated seats, heated steering wheel, things like that. Your start stop button. And then you've got, instead of a gear stick, you've just got this turn dial, so you can move it into drive if you want, and then reverse. And that's what the cameras look like in reverse. You can see it's a full 360, the camera. And then put it back into neutral there. And then if you want to put it in the park, you just press the button. You've got all your camera controls. You've got wireless charging on this, and you've got a glove box with a good amount of storage. You've got two cup holders there. And then you've got some further storage down here. It's actually a similar sort of design as the BYD Atto 3, which I've reviewed before. Again, if you're interested in looking at that review, that one will be popping up now. But I find that the design of this is better than that, because I found it really hard to find the USB plugs in the BYD Atto. In this, it's obvious that there you can see one standard USB socket and one micro USB socket, and some further charging ports down there. As we look around the cabin, I think Kia's getting really close to the Europeans in terms of interior. They're not there yet, but they're not far off. Some of the materials, I like the sort of pattern on here. It's a bit of a hard plastic, but it's not cheap looking or anything like that. And then they mix it up with a bit of the piano black here. Coming around to the doors, I don't really like this white. That looks a bit cheap. It's starting to look still of that piano black a bit cheap. And the leather there's looking a tiny bit cheap, but they're not far off from getting to the European sort of standards there. As we have a look at the seats, surprised that for the GT line you don't get leather seats as standard. And then these seats are more comfort seats than say performance seats that really tuck you in there. So you can see they've just got a small sort of lip on the seat there, but you know, they're comfortable. And then you've got the leather headrest there, a bit of a unique style, similar to that actually Kia Niro that I mentioned before. So it's obviously sort of across the Kia range. They're using that in some of their cars. As we take you back around to the steering wheel here, and it's an interesting shape. It's sort of more of a wider steering wheel with a bit of a flat bottom there, but it's comfortable to use. You've got all your controls that you need, and obviously in the virtual cockpit you've got most of the things that you'd want to see there. And then you've got these Tiptronic controls, which is pretty cool, so it makes it feel like it's actually got gears even though you're driving an electric car, so you can get a bit of a feeling that you did not just have that single gear. You've got all electric seats here for the driver in different settings. They're all pretty good and standard, and you get a lot of features on this. So yeah, that's the front of the cabin. That's what they will take you around to the rear. So as we have a look in the rear here, what you first notice is that just that flat line there. So there's no need for a drivetrain to come through there. So there's no compromise for the person sitting in the middle seat. You can easily walk through to the other side if you need to. In terms of leg room, it's actually quite good. So that seat's moved itself back a bit, not in my usual setting. So I'd be a bit more forward in there, but you can see I've got still a lot more leg room there. As we look at some of the other features in the rear here, you've got your micro USB ports there. You can see a bit better here that sort of pattern that you see on the dashboards, also here on the center console. This doesn't have any air conditioning ducts in the rear here, which is, I find, really strange. But then I look up and I go, oh, hang on, no, it does. The air conditioning ducts are here on the side, so that's a different place to put them, and maybe even ergonomically better for the passengers there, and they might get a nicer clean air. I haven't been a passenger in there here, so I can't really tell you about it. We've got 2 map holders in there. In some Kias I've been in, for some reason they only have 1 map holder, and don't ask me why. And then you've got your 2 cup holders in, and then you can fold this seat down a bit further if you have skis or something else that you need to actually put through into the middle seat there. The height is good. I'm about 180 centimeters tall, and I've still got a reasonable amount of headroom there. Not massive, but I think if you're sort of very, very tall, it might start getting a bit tight, but generally it's pretty good there. And that is the rear of the cabin here. What we'll do is we'll take and have a look at the boot space. The boot space, so it's just underneath here. It's a bit hard to find actually. You can hear that beeping when you eventually touch it. But when I first was trying to get it open, it took me a bit of time to actually get in there. So looking at the boot space, it doesn't look like a massive amount of space, but it's not too bad. It's 490 liters of space you've got here. You've also got a bit of a cargo cover here that can be used if you want to, and then your charging points are here. So you even got your regular power point that you can plug it into, and different options of different power plugs to use here. And there's obviously some more storage to use if you want down there. I don't believe they've got a spare tire in this. They definitely don't, because the battery's there. So you'll have a puncture kit, which I assume is, yep, this is it, the tire mobility kit here. Obviously no room for a spare tire. You've got some charging sockets in here. You can pull the seats down at the rear by pressing that, and it'll give you more space, a nice bang as I put it down there. And then you've got the area that you can go into where you charge it. So you'll charge the car in here. That's the charging socket there. So you'll just plug it in there and start charging it there. So pretty easy to locate, find, and then plug in. Then you've got the automated close here. So you just press it, it'll make some noises, and then it will eventually come down and close for you. All right, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna also show you the front boot space as well, because this is an electric car. So I thought this might actually have boot space in the front, as a lot of EVs do, but I opened it up and I'm like, is that an engine in there? Why is there an engine in an electric car? It's actually obviously not an engine. It's what I'd say is the batteries there. You actually don't get that boot space that you do in some EVs at the front here, because you've got all the batteries and things like that there. So that's kind of interesting. What's this Kia like to drive? Fortunately, I don't have a cameraman, so I can't be driving the car while talking about how it is to drive, but I'm going to tell you how it has been to drive. So getting in the car, it was pretty easy to familiarize myself where everything was. It didn't take too long to figure out how to get the thing started and how to get going. So that was all easy enough. And if I take you to looking around the car, I find there is a few blind spots. Obviously, you've got the technology that helps you with that to offset that and things like that. But there's a big blind spot in the rear just there. And I'm going to show you now that. So just in the rear there, you can see that there's a big blind spot there. So if without the technology, it's hard to kind of see sometimes when there's a car on your left or on the right of you. So that's something that just to sort of be aware of. Obviously, you've got the technology there helping you out. Jumping in the car, driving it, it's a really comfortable car. Obviously electric, quiet, you don't hear anything like that, but it rides the road really nicely as well. And then that ride quality isn't also sacrificed by bad handling. I was able to throw it around corners feeling pretty confident, set very, very flat. I thought this car wouldn't be as good at handling as it has been. Sure, you can definitely feel the weight of this car when pulling it around a turn. It does feel heavy, but at no time did I feel that it was ever going to sort of start to slide off the road if I was pushing around a corner or anything like that. Technology on this car, as with most Kias, it's really good. You get a lot of stuff included. I'm not going to name it all. You've got your 360-degree cameras, you've got your lane departure, you've got your alerts, and then you've even got cameras that turn on when you turn your blinkers on the virtual cockpit, which I'm not too sure about that technology. I think it's actually more distracting than actually beneficial, because you've got to look down at that virtual cockpit, take your eyes away from the road, and it's just something more that you got to think about. It makes you think. You go to turn your eye, I'm fine to turn, and this camera's there, and you're like, oh, is there anything actually there? It just slows down the whole process. I'm not sure that that's the best technology, but there's again like a lot of technology on this car that you get pretty much anything that you would expect to get, plus even more. I still find the Kia system, the interventions too much on the lane assist. It really tries to drive the car for you, but that's really been across the Kias for the last 5 or 6 years when I've been driving different models, so it's not just limited to this model there. When we talk about the power of this car, obviously electric car, it's got a 77 kilowatt battery in it, and that battery produces 168 kilowatts and 350 newton meters of torque, and that's good to get the car to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.3 seconds. I find because it's an electric car and the way it generates the power with that immediate response, it actually often feels a lot quicker than it actually is when driving it. Got 3 different modes here, where there's a drive mode on the steering wheel, and then you've got your eco mode, your normal mode, and a sports mode. And obviously in the sports mode, it'll be more responsive on the throttle. Consumption in this, well, when I picked it up, they only gave me it with 70% of battery in, which was showing about 350 kilometers. You can get a Kia, say, around 520 kilometers out of a charge. I guess obviously if you're being super conservative, obviously if you're not and using air conditioning and things like that, you're not going to get as much, generally around the 400 mark. It's been pretty good with me. Well, I've watched the kilometers drop actually less than I've been doing. So let's say if I did 35 kilometers and it was showing 320, after I did 35 kilometers, it'd only be showing that I've got 300 left, not 285. It seems to be fairly efficient and similar to the numbers that they report on. Brakes on this, they feel really good, really strong. The sound system on this, it's a 14-speaker Meridian sound system, and although it sounds really nice and fancy and good, I just thought that it would sound a bit more premium. Like, it's a good quality sound system, but it's nowhere near some of the systems you get in the European cars, like the Bang & Olufsen or the Bose system. It just doesn't seem up to those standards. What do I think of this Kia EV6? I actually really like it. I haven't driven a huge amount of electric cars, to be honest. Being a bit of a petrol head, I'm not super interested in them, but you know, that's the future. We've got to obviously get used to that and start driving them, see what they're like. So I've only actually, to compare it with, I've only actually driven full electric vehicles such as the BYD Atto 3 and the e-Golf. But this is definitely, of those three, this is easily the best one by far. I've enjoyed it. It's smooth, feels sporty, it's comfortable inside, it's quiet, it does feel refined. Can't compare it to a Tesla because I haven't driven a Tesla. I've driven in a Tesla before, and I think this feels a bit nicer than the Tesla, and it feels a bit more unique inside than a Tesla. Tesla's a bit too simplistic for me, but I definitely think you should have a look at it. There is a bit of though, like the price, it's 80k for this one, and then you've got on-road costs on top of that. So compared to a Tesla sort of 3, this is a fair bit more expensive than a Tesla 3 will be. That might turn a few people off because it's definitely not a cheap car. There's also some niggling things like the proximity key I don't love on it. Like, it doesn't always do what, like, doesn't always open the doors, and can be getting a bit confused at times, I've found. So there's still some niggling issues there, but in general I've enjoyed driving it, and you know, I think it's quite a nice car there, and Kia have done a really good job with this car. Anyway, thanks for watching the review today.